Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Whitetail Rendezvous is pleased to announce a partnership with GoHunt.com. Who's GoHunt.com? Well, if you're a DIY hunter, you need the information at GoHunt.com/insider. Why? Because it provides 4,200 profiles, every unit, every species, and every season. Furthermore, they give in-depth analysis, interactive maps, unit access, and seasonal trends. Draw odds are very important, and they give you the most accurate information in the business. All this is available when you go to GoHunt.com/insider. Make sure you use promo code WR when you join Insider. You'll get a $50 gift card for GoHunt.com Gear Shop. Remember, when you become a member of GoHunt.com/insider, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Go Hunt Gear Shop. What's in the gear shop? The best gear that you can buy for hunting the West. All in all, if you're hunting out West in 2018, GoHunt.com/insider is where you need to be to get all the research information. When you use promo code WR, Whitetail Rendezvous receives a small commission from GoHunt.com. Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. This is your host, and folks, just a little announcement. We're getting sure close to the 500th episode of Whitetail Rendezvous. Unbelievable for this guy sitting here, but I want to thank each and every listener because we're also close to 250,000 listeners. And one of the first guys that stood up to the plate and called Whitetail Rendezvous was Ace Luciano. And Ace is a friend. When we first talked to him, he's living in Wisconsin. Now he's down in Arizona. But Ace is quite a guy. Why? Because he likes kids. He helps kids. But he's a very successful entrepreneur, a business person, author, a noted gun nut, sure as heck proponent of our Second Amendment rights, and all around, Ace is a thinker. Ace understands what it means to stand back, think, look, evaluate, all the things we do as hunters, but he does it at such a level that it's just a privilege to have Ace back on the show. So Ace, you're up, and what's the subject for today's little chit-chat?
Well, Bruce, first of all, thanks again for having me on again at the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast. I remember I was like as I recall, I was like maybe your sixth or eighth guest.
Yeah, you're top 10.
200th guest.
Oh, no, I'm close to 500.
No, but I've been on once between. It was like some 200 something, and now it's almost 500. I mean, in such a short time. So congratulations. Wow, that's great. I love to see entrepreneurs build their business and have success. And I would call Whitetail Rendezvous a great success. I mean, obviously people like what you and we as guests have to say. So thanks for having me on again.
Well, you're welcome. And folks, just to kind of prep you up, Ace understands the challenge as hunters and gun owners that we're under. And that's why I wanted him on the show, and it all worked fine. In fact, it was kind of funny. Ace was saying, well, I want to talk about this and this on the show. And he said, you read my mind, because we're both thinking along the same path, because we are under attack. And I know no better guy than I know personally that can help us, talk about it and dissect it and get people thinking about what the heck they need to do to protect your rights for your kids, and certainly without a doubt for yourself. So Ace, let's dive into this thing and talk about the next 30, 45 minutes. And folks, if you don't want to hear about current events and where we're at, then switch the channel, and I'm good with that. But if you really want to get some strong insights, no BS, straight from the hip, Ace is going to give it to you.
Well, and I appreciate that. And, Bruce, one of the things that I've kind of built my name and my reputation on, and quite frankly, sometimes to my own detriment, is I always give people the absolute blunt truth. As a matter of fact, with a lot of my clients, I ask them, I say, do you want to feel good or would you like the truth? And they all say, I want the truth. And then I will confirm with them and say, are you sure you want the truth? Because I can tell you what you want to hear. I can tell you what you think might be good, or I can give you the truth. And you might not like the truth. And they all then say, yes, I want the truth. And there are a certain percent of them that don't really like it. So what you get from me is just straight meat. And I have to tell you, Bruce, I, right now, today, am as concerned as I've ever been. I'm going to read you some headlines. This is today's headline. I'm very dialed in the news, Second Amendment news and such, right? So 1 in 5 Americans wants the Second Amendment to be repealed. Retired Justice Stevens argues for repeal of Second Amendment, supporting both Second Amendment rights and, quote, sensible gun control. Gun rights advocate rallies part of the liberal plan to weaken the Second Amendment. Can the Second Amendment be changed? A former Supreme Court justice, weighs in. The courts say the Parkland kids' agenda is largely compatible with the Second Amendment. Well, I have to tell you that headlines like that should scare every single person that hunts deer with a gun. It should scare every person that owns a gun, whether that's for hunting or recreational shooting or personal protection or anything. This is right now, today, one of the biggest assaults we have ever seen on the Second Amendment. And they are throwing children up as the head of the attack on the Second Amendment. And Bruce, I have to tell you, I can't help but look back in history. And there was another attack on firearms rights many, many years ago in the 40s that also involved a lot of children. And you might recognize the name Adolf Hitler, right? I hate to throw that name out. I want people to know that I do not put that name out into the news and relate it to the Second Amendment lightly. I don't call everybody Hitler. I think the people that call Donald Trump and relate Donald Trump to Hitler, I think they're ridiculous, because I would tell you that Adolf Hitler was probably the worst man, the worst person the world has ever seen. He convinced a huge populace that, one, they didn't need protection. They were there to be protected. They convinced a huge populace that murder of people based on their race or religion is okay, right? And then when he had enough people convinced, he used those people that he convinced to take power over an even greater populace. This is a legitimate and real threat. And it all started with terms and phrases like children's safety and knowing where dangerous guns might be. And while there are people that would tell you that that can never happen again, I would argue that it happens today and every day. All you have to do is look around the world. I mean, in South Africa, the first thing that they did when the power transferred from predominantly white to predominantly black power, and no political, judgment on that. Apartheid was a horrible system. Okay, wrong is wrong. But when they changed from a predominantly white-run government to what is then and now currently a predominantly black-run government, one of the first things they did to try and, quote, reduce violence was get rid of the guns. And I don't know if you follow the international news, but in the headlines everywhere, they're talking about now taking land from white farmers without compensation. The president of South Africa, and I'm paraphrasing here, said something along the lines of cutting the throat of the white farmer and the white oppressors. That's very scary, Bruce. And you can't defend yourself against that having no guns. That's really what we're up against. And it scares me.
And you think back, to how, the United States of America, we started in a revolution, and it took muskets, untrained militia to go against seasoned, British troops who were well trained, well outfitted. And that's all we had.
Right. Well,
today,
that's not all we had. But and a lot of people say that. And, there's a lot of people that say, well, they couldn't have imagined what kind of technology we would have, and that we would have guns that fire 3,000 rounds a minute and all that, right? And my response to people when they say that is, are you kidding? These were very forward-thinking people. These were people that looked and they analyzed the risk to democracy and the risk to freedom across every single empire and every single area of the known world. And they accurately predicted where and how those risks would manifest themselves. And it's almost like they had a crystal ball and they could see that, hey, this is what's going to happen. So we're going to plan for it. That's the reason why we have a representative republic instead of a, plain democracy, because they said, hey, as people concentrate in cities, they're going to be able to take control of everything. And we can't have that. That's why we have an electoral college, right? So that New York can't run the country, because that's not how it should be, right? People need to have freedom. They need to have freedom across the board. And I really hate when people say all they thought, they could never have thought of mustard. Well, if that's of anything beyond mustard, well, do you think they could think of something like the internet? Do you think they could have imagined a computer? So then does the right to free speech only apply to quill pens and hand typeset printing presses, which is all they had in the day? Does that mean that right does not transcend technology? No, it is a right. It is an inherent God-given right. And they were very, very, very specific as how they addressed all of them. A lot of people don't know that back in the days of the Revolution, what was the number one most powerful weapon that was available in the days of the American Revolution? Do you know?
Nope.
A cannon, right? It was a cannon. It was field artillery. Now, do you know, Bruce, that when we fought the Revolution, the majority of artillery that was held by the American revolutionaries were in private hands? That's how we know. That's how we know that the Founding Fathers meant arms. They meant arms sufficient to repel a tyrannical leader, government, or enemy. I mean, our entire Navy at the time was made up of privateers. A privateer is a private citizen in service of the government, conscripted to attack and pillage the enemies of that nation. These are private individuals. How many cannons are on a naval ship? 10? Could you imagine, like me saying, yeah, I have 4 howitzer cannons in my garage, right? People will go crazy, but the howitzer was a cannon, And these are private individuals that had that. That's how we know. And I love people, and you and I have talked about my favorite phrase, Bruce, the people that look at the world through their anal optic, right? What's an anal optic? An anal optic is the person that uses their but I'm a hunter, but I would never own one of those nasty, quote, assault weapons. I have news for you. Every single weapon that we have today, that's in existence today, started as a military quality and military technology. Almost all. Maybe not all, almost all, right? Think about all the cartridges we have today. The 30-06, the most prolific hunting round in the world, started as a military round, right? The 308, arguably the second most prolific round in the world, started as a military round. The 223 Remington started life as the 5.56 millimeter, a military round, right? Every gun we have today was at one point in a military service. The 1911, the action that changed the gun world, military weapon, right, was conscripted by the military. They said, that is a great weapon. Wow, we need that, right? So what people do is they play on emotions, they play on fear, and they look at the world through glasses where they think that less guns equals safe. And Bruce, I have to tell you that as someone that has been raised with guns, as someone that has personally introduced more than 10,000 children directly to shooting and hunting, I can tell you that today we are in more danger than we have ever been. And if you are a hunter, that includes you. If you are a target shooter, that includes you. If you don't own an AR-15, that includes you. If you only own bolt-action rifles, that includes you. If you only own shotguns, that includes you. Because it never stops, Bruce. It never stops. When people once you allow the slide down that slippery slope, then they pick something else. And here's the most simple explanation that I can give people. That is, if you could legislate away evil, wouldn't somebody have done it many years ago? I mean, let's face it. If we could just say there will be no evil, the law says there is no evil, and it went away, we would have just written that law, and we wouldn't have any evil. We wouldn't have people murdering kids in school. We wouldn't have people, stabbing people to death, because it would be illegal, and that would work, right? I mean, let's face it, murder is illegal. Therefore, there shouldn't be any murder. What makes people think that by allowing restriction or allowing the repeal of a fundamental right and a foundation of this experiment in freedom that's the United States of America, what makes them think that that would be different? I have to ask that question.
It's not going to be different. I mean, it's just not. That's the thing. And I think we talked about it, or I talked about it with somebody recently. It's just, the hunting community, shooting community, the sportsman community, the guys in the Orvis catalog that carry Perazzi's and go shoot quail on their plantation. We guys and gals and kids, we all need to realize that, a chapter's been flipped. When Time Magazine put those young people on the cover, that signaled a whole new, it's old news because you gave some historical reference to what happened in Germany with Hitler. But it really signified the mindset of the country, because to put that out there, they knew that would sell magazines. And that just gives more fuel to the fire about these people said, an assault rifle. You don't know what an assault rifle is? And I would challenge anybody, just tell me what AR stands for. I know, and a bunch of other people know, but AR does not stand for assault rifle, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, and here's the big thing. We know that a ban on assault weapons doesn't work for reducing crime. We had it. It was in effect for 10 years, right? From 1994 to 2004, we had an assault weapons ban, okay? And what did that assault weapons ban do? It banned weapons based entirely on one thing, appearance. Because a Remington semi-automatic deer rifle, the 7600, right, works on the same principle and the same action as an AR-15. A Winchester Super X3 shotgun works via the same action and same principle as an AR-15. There's a great video out there that Ted Nugent did that shows, like, in a crowd, a regular goose gun loaded with buckshot is much more deadly, dangerous, and effective than an AR-15 is, no matter how many magazines or bullets you have, because people aren't trained. They're not trained to respond. They're not trained to fight. They're not trained to resist, right? Every time you pull the trigger, there's 20 or 30 pellets going out of that shotgun, and oh my goodness, it's not the gun. If that kid had a shotgun, I can't even imagine the devastation that would be through. So what are we going to do then? Then are we going to ban shotguns? Remember the part about we don't want to take your hunting weapons? What's a shotgun, right? That's a bird gun. People think, well, that's only used for shooting birds. Boy, if I throw a 500 grain slug in there, it'll do a number on a deer or a bear or a person, right? So where do they stop? The answer is they don't. This is the same as the anti-hunters that say, we don't want to ban hunting. We just want to ban hunting with dogs. We don't want to ban hunting. We just want to ban cruel trapping. We don't want to ban trapping. We just want to ban cruel leg hold traps, right? They always look for a way to split off. And that's where the anal optics come in. And they allow us to be fractioned. They allow us to be divided. And now more than ever, we need a united front. We need all of the organizations together. And folks, if you're listening out there, you need to today join the NRA. I mean, there are 100 million gun owners in this country. There are 5.3 million NRA members. That's appalling. You need to join the NRA today if you own a gun. Let's say that you have a fundamental difference with the NRA, which, I mean, completely idiotically, there are many people that say that. I don't know why, because I really believe that if you own a gun, that's where we are. That's where you have to be, right? So, okay, there's other organizations. Join the Second Amendment Foundation, which is a purely legal organization that works based on law, right? Join the Second Amendment Foundation. Join the Gun Owners of America, right? Join, if you're a part of the gun business, make sure you join the National Association of Firearm Retailers, or join the National Shooting Sports Foundation, right? Now more than ever, we need people to support the people that help us and protect our business. And Bruce, I'll give you a little foreshadowing. I actually have an article coming out about the business in firearms, highlighting one business and talking about the number of people that they touch. Because let's face it, how many more millions of people are killed by cars every year than by guns? It's not even close. Millions, right? I'm sorry, thousands of people. Thousands of people are killed by cars every year, and thousands more are killed by cars than killed by guns. More people are killed being beaten to death than are killed by guns every year. So how do you ban fists? How do you ban heat? How do you ban lead pipes or kitchen knives or hammers or whatever, right? That's where we're at right now. They're not coming just for the semi-automatic weapons. They're not coming for what is a cosmetic label. That's the assault weapon, right? They're coming for all your guns. This is not something that we can allow to happen. And the way to fight is to join the NRA. And the way to fight is realize that if you're a hunter and you've never owned an AR-15, which I was up until about 10 years ago, I did not personally own an AR-15. And when people ask me, I said, I just have never really had a lot of experience, and I really haven't found a big need for one for me, right? And I had a buddy that took me out to shoot one, and I looked over and I said, this is really fun. And now one of my main varmint rifles is an AR-15. I use that gun all the time, and I use it to teach my kids how to shoot because there's no recoil to it, but it's a loud bang, and the bullet will shoot far, so they can practice at 200 yards without being beat up by a hunting rifle, right? So I feel like now more than ever, we need to rally around a common theme and a common cause, and that common cause is the Second Amendment. Am I off base? Am I wrong?
Not at all. And I alluded to it earlier. You see it in social media all the time in my whitetail world or in the whitetail world where I shoot a deer. Could be a huge deer or a little deer, but that's my deer. That's my trophy, and I'm proud of it, and I'm going to put it out there on social media. Then all of a sudden, hunters come back in and say, well, why'd you shoot such a big deer, little deer, small deer, doe deer, buck deer, deer? Why'd you shoot that deer? Because I wanted to shoot the deer rather than celebrate the fact that I am a hunter. I am a hunter. Have been all my life,
right.
And will when I die. I'm also a sheepdog, and if nobody knows about sheepdog, just Google it: sheep, wolves, and sheepdog. And this is from Lieutenant Colonel. Oh, his name just drops out. I'll figure out. You can just Google it. And he gave a
Chris,
talk
about Chris Kyle.
No.
No.
This was at University of Annapolis, and he gave a talk there about the three categories in life when they're a sheep. Okay, people go to work and come home. Go to work, come home. There are wolves, the predators. Folks, predators aren't just people in the forest. Predators are next door to you. They could be sexual predators. They could be predators for your kids. They could be predators for your wallet. They could be predators for your home. They prey on people, period.
Right.
And then there's these guys and gals called sheepdogs. And sheepdogs just don't like predators. And if a predator looks at a sheepdog, he knows they don't like them, and they'll leave. Because when you're in fear, folks, two things happen. Your eyes betray you, and you smell fear. And I've hunted long enough that I've shot animals that knew I was there, and they were afraid, and it was either, fight or flight when you're in fear. Two responses. And wolves, or bears or cats. I know, Jerry, you've been to Africa and stuff. I mean, they know they can just look at an animal and know they're going to kill them, and they haven't moved the muscle.
Right.
And so, where's all this going? We have to understand how the world works. People die every day. And the thing that jacks me up about this whole thing about the gun, every single day in the city of Chicago, there's a murder. And I don't know how many a minute or an hour. I don't have those stats in front of me.
Two to three a day.
23 a day, folks.
2 to 3 a day.
Chicago are killed.
Right. 2 or 3 every day are murdered in Chicago. Every day.
With a weapon. With a weapon. No, I don't know if that's blunt force trauma or a bullet. No. But every single day. Now, why that isn't all over the news? Because that's insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I agree. And yes, what did they say?
Media.
Well, we need to ban guns. Well, for 50 years, Chicago had the most stringent gun control in the country. I mean, it's really ridiculous. It really is. But when you think, and speaking from someone that's been in the situation, there is a day that I will never forget, Bruce. It was December 12th, 2012. I was coming out of an event out in the Pfister Hotel in Milwaukee. I came upon a man burglarizing my Jeep. I called the police and confronted him. Said, leave the stuff, go away. The police are on their way. And the next thing, Bruce, he had a gun. The next thing I knew, he had a gun in his hand. He dropped my bag and he had a gun. Now, my attitude and training and everything has all changed since then, right? But I was carrying a gun at that time. And due to a distraction, I was able to get the drop on that gentleman. And I told him that I would kill him. A gun saved my life. Having a gun saved my life. I'm convinced of it. And you cannot judge a person in that scenario until it happens to you, right? Now, Bruce, the important thing to learn from that situation wasn't that I had a gun and was able to protect myself. The important thing that everybody needs to know from that scenario and scenarios just like it, all across the country that happen every single day, is that from the time I told the police he has a gun to the time they arrived on scene was 36 minutes. Now think about that. When you think that you can be protected and that the police are enough to protect you, where were they during those 36 minutes, right? The confrontation was less than 3 minutes. It still took them 36 minutes to get to me. The police station was 8 blocks away, 36 minutes. So
folks, a gunfight lasts 3 to 5 seconds. Boom, it's over. Boom.
Right.
It's over.
So for 35 and a half of those minutes was all it took for me to maybe be dead or bleeding to death on the ground. The police are there not to protect you. They're there to come and gather evidence so that they can find out who killed you. Well, you know what? That's not good enough for me. It's not good enough for my family. And it shouldn't be good enough for yours. And if you're okay with that, I think that you should admit then that you're okay with that version of police. And that is the image that should be portrayed of police. Because quite frankly, unless a crime happens to be committed in front of or a block away from a police officer, they're not going to protect you from bad guys. They're going to be there to clean up the mess and maybe get you medical help, maybe save your life, maybe just gather the evidence to go get your murderer. And yes, it's the same for you, Mr. Deer Hunter that shoots a gun 6 times a year, and all you have is a bolt action 22 and your deer rifle. It affects you as much as it affects the guy that has 50 guns and shoots 500 rounds a week for competition, right? It affects all of us.
There's no difference. There's absolutely no difference. If you pull a trigger, then you're under.
Gun is a gun.
Right.
Is a gun.
Right. It doesn't really matter. It just doesn't. And that's why I want to reach out to you because, muzzleloaders are great and all these things. Even my crossbow now, I pull a trigger. And you think about that. I think about my grandkids now, and then my great-grandkids, which I don't have any yet, but my grandkids, and I go, I'm one of those guys in the back of my pickup truck going to high school, grade school, had the single shot 20 gauge. I'd come home, take it out, go shoot a grouse or a squirrel or a rabbit, and come home and we'd eat the sucker. I shouldn't say it like that. We'd eat it. That's 10 and 12 years old. No, I didn't have a license. No, I never had hunter safety. I had somebody that mentored me, as Jerry has thousands of kids. And, it was a foreign thing. I had one teacher, one time I had a BB gun, and I had it on the school grounds, and it was after school or whatever, and we shooting cans, and he said my name, or somebody said my name, and I turned, and he just about took my head off. Why? Because of muzzle. I muzzled him.
Mm-hmm.
And he almost took my head off. I'll never forget. I'm talking, I'm 8 years old, and I can remember it right now, place and time and everything. And he said, don't you ever do that. Well, it's not loaded. He says, don't you ever do that again, because you could kill somebody. And once that bullet leaves the muzzle, you can't call it back. Whatever happens, happens, and your life has changed one way or another. And I never forgot that. So I had people in me that mentored me painfully. Oh, he
Right.
actually he grabbed me by the ear and twisted my hair and made me cry. Okay,
Yeah.
this is grade school, after school hours, and BB gun on.
Well, you certainly didn't go home and tell your parents about that, because they'd have probably given you worse discipline, and that's what you did wrong to deserve that, right? So, and that relates directly back to what we're seeing now. I mean, let's look at these kids that they're putting up there. Most of these kids, and I just from precursory views of who they are and what they've done and what I've found out and heard about them, many of these kids that they have as their spokespeople have never had a job, have never paid taxes, have never been involved in any serious type of altercations, right? They basically had kind of an easy life, and they have no idea what they're talking about, and that's our fault. It's really our fault that things like this, these shootings and things, these school shootings happen with nobody knowing what to do or how to stop it. We have ways to stop school shootings. There are many ways to stop school shootings. We've had guns for 200 years in this country. In fact, we've had 250 years. We're almost at, right? And we've had guns in this country. But school shootings have only started happening in the past, 15, 20, right? Why is that? Why are things different? Hint, it's not the gun. And if, again, to relate it back to the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast and the millions of hunters out there, hunting is in trouble, guys. It really is. There are many thousands more people that own a gun than people that own a gun and hunt. And here's a funny thing about privileges and rights and things like hunting and activities. If you don't have a vested interest, you don't care. And what do you think is going to happen when the people that own guns, the guys that are serious shooters, the guys that are, tactical guys, the guys that just have guns and like guns but don't hunt, what do you think is going to happen when the risk comes to hunting? I'll tell you what's going to happen. They're going to say, well, you know what? When we needed the hunters, they split off and said, yeah, we don't need assault weapons. We're just hunters. And guess what they're going to do then? The same thing that happened with things like trapping in Western states. I live in Arizona. Do you know in Arizona you can't use leg hold traps on public land anywhere in Arizona? How many trappers do you think are going to, work for and help with this current issue where they're trying to ban the hunting of, large predators in Arizona? I mean, it's a real risk, because the trappers all say, well, where were all the people supporting us? We can't trap anymore. I don't hunt big predators. What do I care? I just hunt quail. I don't care about that. And besides, if I say that, if I use my anal optic and say, I'm a hunter, but I would never run a lion with dogs, right? When I use my anal optic, that raises my social stature in my peer group. That's the easy path, right? So what do we do to fight that? All we can do is get together. And that's why you need to join organizations like the NRA. If you're a hunter, you need to be part of the NRA. The NRA does a ton of stuff for hunters. You need to join Gun Owners of America. You need to join the Second Amendment Foundation, because trust me when I tell you, folks, these people are not out just for, quote, assault weapons. I heard a great, great analogy the other day. Everyone says, well, we should do something. Well, you know what? A child that's drowning in the river, right? You can throw a brick at that child. That's doing something. It's not the right thing, but it is doing something. Why are so many people wanting to jump on the infringement of a God-given right, right? Just in the name of doing, quote, something. It's appalling. And I just don't know where we go from there. Where do we go from there? Once you lose one, you lose them all. Now, I'm also famously reminded of the quote by Martin Niemöller, the guy, the pastor that was incarcerated under Hitler. Have you heard his famous quote about first they came? First they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. That's where we're at in this country today, Bruce. That's what we've come to. They have divided. There's blood in the water, and they feel like there's an honest chance to change the Constitution and change the Second Amendment. And it's very scary. And that's not even, we haven't even touched on the other very serious infringement, and that is the banning of videos and the banning of search results on Google, places like Google and places like YouTube. There will be a day very soon, Bruce, that Apple might look at this podcast and go, talking about guns, out it goes. Can't be having that. Tell me how
And folks, that's real. That's censorship in the highest order by somebody that disagrees with who you are, what you stand for, and what you love to do. And it's a real thing. I don't have Jerry on the show just because I want to throw a thing on the news and ride the coattails of current events, because this is a real thing. And
well, how is that different than burning books?
There's no difference.
Burned books.
See, there's no difference.
That's what they had. Now we have different Nazis, right? We have video Nazis. We have people that say that we don't agree with that, so therefore you can't show it.
But wait a minute, I don't agree with you, so
right.
I have a right to ban you from my store or from my whatever. See, that's what's upside down. I don't get it. On one hand, people are saying, I can't do this because I don't agree with you. But if I go back and say, well, I don't agree with you because what you do, they'll look at me cross-eyed and say, you can't say that. That's against my rights. That you can't attack me like that. I'm going, what did you just do to me? And talk to some of the women in the outdoor sports who have a social media presence who hunt. And it's ugly.
Right.
I think they're corporate. They're social terrorists myself. I just coined a new word, social terrorists. About women will just harangue, threaten, murder, do whatever to people who show, a grip and grin, a trophy shot, a dead animal.
Bruce, how is that any different than if I come and threaten you? Do you know let's say, Bruce, you and I are on the street, right? And you walk up to me and you say, Ace, I'm going to punch you in the face right now. If you come up and say that to me, I am well within my right to punch you first. Now, how is that any different than the guy that sent a message to Michelle Bachmann and said, I'm going to come and assault you. I'm going to rape you. I'm going to make you and all kinds of vile, filthy things that he said to her on social media. How is that any different?
It isn't. There's absolutely no difference. There's none.
Right. How is that different than the guy that several years ago when I lived in Wisconsin stalked me on social media and said, I'm going to attack your kids. I'm going to kill your daughters. Then we'll see. He said, what if I shot your two daughters? How would you feel then? Want to talk about threat? And you threaten my family. You are playing with fire, because that is a legitimate threat. If they did that to the president, the Secret Service would be there today, right?
Oh, you're 100% right. And see, I don't get it. I just don't get that context, how you can openly, in front of millions of people throughout the globe, threaten to kill your two daughters. Yet, if you went to the police station and go, this is inert. It's out there in cyberspace. Well, unfortunately, folks, we're seeing some of that bubble up to the top, and it becomes a reality.
Right. They become real, and they call for it. So all of the things that talk about, I hope you die. I hope a lion eats you. I hope that your children get stomped on by an elephant. All kinds of just
sick,
horrible things.
No, it's sick.
I never see that the other way. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but if it does, it is so rare. It is so rare that it would be. I just would think that if it was the other way, it would be all over the news.
All over the news, I'd be in jail. You and I would be in jail.
I can't find any examples of it. But yet, because it's that side, it's okay. And this is what we are fighting against. And man, I cannot drive the point home enough. If you are a hunter, we are on the same side. And folks, I am as big a hunter as they come. I hunt everything. I love to hunt. If I could walk out the door today and not do anything for the rest of my life, but go hunting, I would do it in a heartbeat, without question. That's how much I love hunting. That's how much I love being a hunter. I love responsible game management. I love trophy hunting, right? I love game utilization. I believe in utilizing and not wasting a precious resource like game and game meat. So I would never, never be okay with going out and shooting a bunch of deer for fun and not using them, not utilizing them, or donating them, or doing something productive with them, right? I am on your side. As a hunter, I am a hunter, but I am an American. And hunting, folks, is not a right. Hunting can be taken away more easily than the Second Amendment. And if you look at how much danger we are in right now today with the Second Amendment in this country, you should be terrified for the future of hunting. And again, what's this, the fourth time I've had to say it? Join the NRA. If you are an NRA member, buy memberships for two of your friends that aren't members. I have had so many people convert because I've gotten them a membership to the NRA. I've said, look, I bought you a membership to the NRA. I got you the American Hunter magazine so that you can see what this organization is about. You're going to get the magazine every month. You're going to get letters in the mail that talk about the issues that are out there. And you will see that, you know what, these are not people that are evil. These are not people that are murderers. These people think that harming children is disgusting and reprehensible, and they will do everything in their power to prevent it. But they ask a very good question. Who's the first person we call when a bad guy with a gun shows up? We call a good guy with a gun. And if we don't need assault weapons, so-called assault weapons, for protection, then why, when the police show up, do they show up with assault weapons? If we don't need high-capacity magazines for protection, why, when the police show up, do they all have a sidearm with a high-capacity magazine and several spare loaded high-capacity magazines with them? If it's not an effective means of protection, why do the police use them for protection? Somebody answer that question for me. This is not about the gun, folks. It's not. It's about people from outside influencing our country. And we are today the only living experiment in freedom in the world. People can claim there's freedom elsewhere. Other countries are not free. There is no other country that's free like the United States. We are in real danger. And as a hunter and a gun owner, it's your duty. It is your responsibility to educate others. Don't argue. Just educate others. If you don't want to get into an argument or a discussion, you know what? Tell the people, look, I'm a responsible gun owner, and I believe that everybody has the freedom to keep and bear arms. And that's all you need to say, because there is no such thing as an assault weapon. An assault weapon can be anything. It can be my cell phone if I clock you in the head with it. It can be a can of soda if I knock you upside the head with it. That's an assault soda because I've used it to assault you. And Bruce, I have to tell you, as someone that is, in addition to being a hunter and a gun owner, I am a 25-year martial artist. I've trained for now the majority of my life, much more. I'm 30 years now in the martial arts, right? For 30 years, the vast majority of my life, I have trained in using all kinds of things as weapons. It's not the tool. It's not the tool. I'm the weapon. And whether it's a gun or a board or a bat or a pencil or a pen or a rolled up magazine or a broom handle or a rock or a stick or a T-shirt or a belt, right? I mean, come on. Do we ban belts? I can tell you, Bruce, there are a dozen ways to really hurt someone with a belt. There are a handful of ways to kill someone really quickly with a belt, with a sock. It's not the tool. It's not the tool.
And with that, we get near the close of our session here. I can't wait to get the emails on this one. And I welcome folks. Hey, come on, Jerry. How does somebody get in touch with you if they want to do anything?
Well, if you want to learn more about me and more about what I do, one of the easiest ways is you can Google Ace Luciano. That's ACELUCIANO. I'm not a hard guy to find, and I can tell everybody out there I am open for appearances. I'm open for guests on shows just like this. I do now maybe a couple of these a month, but I definitely have room for more. If you know people that are involved in the gun industry, if you know people that are involved in the gun fight, if you know people in the media, feel free to pass them my information because, folks, I am more than willing to engage in open and educational discussion and debate on firearms and talk about it in a responsible manner and to help correct the mistaken priorities that we have for changing violence in this country. You can also go to my website, which is simply aceluciano.com. That's ACELUCIANO.com. My name is Ace Luciano. I'm a hunter. I'm a fisherman. I'm an outdoorsman. I'm a proud Second Amendment advocate and firearm owner. And we're all in this fight together.
And with that, for the folks, and I'm asked a lot about assault weapons. Well, don't you know what an assault weapon is? There's a great video going around YouTube right now. And the guy just asked, ma'am, do you know what assault weapon is? She said, assault weapon? Don't you even read the paper? Assault weapon. And she doesn't know what they are. So can you define, and you sort of kind of have touched on it, but what is an assault weapon?
Assault weapon has come to be known as a firearm that is generally black, but doesn't have to be, and has certain physical and cosmetic characteristics about it. Things like a pistol grip, a collapsible stock, a barrel shroud, an accessory rail, right? Things like compensators, flash suppressors, okay? All of these things, and has the capacity for a magazine to be inserted in and out. All of these things are simply cosmetic differences. There are bolt-action rifles all over the country that take magazines, removable magazines, and there are many that now can take high-capacity magazines. And there's no real. I mean, my Ruger 10/22, I've got actually a 100-round drum magazine. It's a 22 caliber rifle for blinking and such. And if you looked at that gun, no one would call it an assault rifle. And yet it has many of the characteristics that people want to classify as an assault weapon. Any tool can become a weapon. Any weapon becomes an assault weapon when it is used in an assault. We would never be irresponsible enough to send our warriors into battles with semi-automatic firearms, right, to fight against our enemies. We just wouldn't do it. A true assault weapon is a weapon, or an assault rifle, I should say, is a rifle that has a selector that allows you to fire fully automatic. That's the difference. Those have been illegal to own in this country without a very expensive license and a very thorough and extensive process, screening and background check process. Those have been illegal to own since the 30s. So, folks, it's not about the tool.
And so everything you see, folks, in the media, wherever that takes you, whatever platform, distribution channel, 90%, and I'm really going to get some hate mail on this, 90% or more people don't know what they're talking about. In the Congress in the United States of America, to the lawmakers that are making these laws, that are considering the Parkland Five or anybody else that is whispering in their ear, and lobbyists that don't want us to have guns, do not know what we were talking about on the show today. They don't understand it. They don't want to understand it. They only want to do one thing. And it came out of a movie, get the guns. I'm going to get the guns. Get the guns. And you have to think, why do they really want to get my gun? So I can't go out and shoot a can, shoot a squirrel, shoot an elephant, shoot an elk, shoot a bird with a Mossberg 500.
Why do they want to take that?
Yeah, with a Mossberg 500 with a laser sight on it, somebody comes through my door. I don't use a 9mm or 40 or 357. I just rack a shell. That doesn't get them out of my house. Well, game on. But that's where we're at, folks. And you gotta sober up. You gotta quit saying, well, they're gonna do this and then they're gonna do that. Forget that. Shut up. Go call Pete Burnell. He's the president of NRA. Nice guy. He owns a gun company called Brunel's in Iowa. Been around forever.
Yep.
Forever. Good guy. Level-headed guy. And he wants his grandchildren to be able to do the things that he did. Go down the creek, trap raccoons, shoot foxes, shoot squirrels, hunt a white-tailed deer. And that's basically it. Be a good citizen. Be a good person in your community. If somebody needs help, you go help them. Well, if somebody's raping the next door guy's daughter, you don't have a gun, or you don't have a assault weapon, sledgehammer, crowbar, whatever, or the balls to be a sheepdog,
right?
What kind of neighbor are you? I don't know. I really don't, Ace. I just don't know. And Ace, I did send that email, sheep, wolves, and sheepdogs too, so you can take a look at that.
Oh, thank you.
And the guy who wrote it, he wrote a book on combat, and that's why I was talking to Naval Academy anyway. And it's all out there, folks, but you have to be willing to be a student of what you're fighting for, not sitting in a bar and jawing over whatever. You have to get darn right serious and say, wait a minute, I have to do something now, or what I know, my life I know, my son, my daughter, my kids, my nephews will never see again. Because once it goes, folks, it's gone. It ain't coming back.
Right. You don't get any rights back ever.
Until Jesus, and I'll just throw Jesus out there. And when Jesus comes back, okay, new deck of cards. But if the Second Amendment goes away in any shape or form, amended 672, there isn't Amendment 672, but Constitution Convention, Ace knows more about this than I do, how the whole thing works. But if that goes away or is modified in any way, then we're screwed. And it's just a matter of time before they are gone. And you don't want to be on planet Earth when that happens.
Right.
You don't, because your mind isn't set up to do what you need to do to survive. Forget work. Just survive. I don't know. Jay, why don't you close up and we'll get the heck out of here before I really get wound up.
Well, Bruce, here's what we know. There is evil in man's heart. There has been since Cain slew Abel with a rock, right?
Yep.
So if you could make a rule against evil and have it go away, we'd already have it. We have thousands of rules. We have thousands of rules against evil, against, to try and be more protective of those that are our most precious things, our children. And I will leave you with this final thought. 92% of mass shootings have taken place in a gun-free zone. If you can explain to me how the problem is on the gun and that we have the right to keep and bear arms, and not how we need to better protect our children and better protect ourselves, I really don't know if there's going to be any effective and educative debate on this issue. Join the NRA, join the Group Gun Owners of America, join the Second Amendment Organization, 2AO, and the Second Amendment Foundation, 2AF, and folks, make your voice heard. We are all in this fight together, but we need your help. Thanks, Bruce, so much for having me on the show. It's been, again, a great pleasure. Again, I'm Ace Luciano. Get in touch with me on LinkedIn. Google me, Ace Luciano, or go to my website, aceluciano.com.
Hey, folks, you're going to enjoy the next guest on Whitetail Rendezvous podcast. We're going to head out to Virginia, and we're going to sit down on the front porch, literally, with Corbin Smith. And Corbin's 18 years old, a high schooler, and so there's a lot of things going on in his world. But most important, he's a passionate hunter. Yeah, he hunts frogs and rabbits and squirrels and turkeys and whitetails. He likes to hunt everything. And he's going to share why, when somebody asks him in high school why he hunts, he's going to tell you exactly what he tells them. And he's got some interesting insights and stories. So Corbin Smith, I'm so proud to have him on the show, and he did a great job. So, hey, folks, enjoy the show.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.